earlier this week banning teams from using players who previously signed contracts to play in the NFL, NBA, or WNBA. This coming on the heels of two former LSU football players leaving NFL training camps with the intention of returning to play for LSU. In round 2 of the Tour Championship, Ryan Gerard has a one-shot lead at 9 under par overall. Among those one back, Cameron Young and Colin Morikawa. Young today shot an 8 under par 62. In Major League Baseball, the Cincinnati Reds a 9-4 lead over the Cubs in the bottom of the 8th at Wrigley. Cincinnati with 3 home runs, including rookie Sal Stewart's 29th of the campaign. I'm Isaac Lowenkron.
Action.
Broadcasting live from the KGSO studios in West Wichita.
I feel more informed when I listen.
This is the Press Box on Wichita's sports station, KGSO.
The Press Box on KGSO.
What's up, Wichita? Welcome into the Press Box on Wichita Sports Station, 1410 AM, 93.9 FM, KGSO. Excited to have you with us. We're coming to you live from the Renewal by Andersen Studios. Expert installation done right on schedule. We've got a big show planned for you. I'm Sasha Bushka. Jay-Z and KC getting ready to take in a preseason game today. We'll get him on the phone a little bit later in the show, but I'll be flying solo from the Renewal by Andersen Studios today. As always, you can weigh in on the Maximum Outdoor Equipment hotline at 316-522-1410. That is the hotline. That's where we want to hear from you. We've got a call locked in now, which we'll get to in just a second. But first, a quick rundown. It is the final preseason games this weekend. We'll look at the Chiefs' final roster, kind of preseason week 3. We're continuing our, I guess we'll call it comprehensive coverage like we do in the NFL of the Big 12 Conference, doing previews there. We've got Cincinnati and Colorado today, going in alphabetical order. And if time permits, we'll give you a little look in on TCU, who plays this weekend. We've got a couple of guests. Tim Grubbs coming up at the end of hour number 1, Felix Johnson at the beginning of hour number 2, and Jay-Z will join the show in hour number 2 as well. These first 2 segments are going to be your best chance to get in with 3 guests in a row following that. So without further ado, let's go to the phones. Welcome to the Press Box. How we doing today?
Hey, Sasha, this is Corey. How are you doing, bud?
I'm good, man. How are you, Corey?
I'm so excited and pumped up for college football.
You're fired up?
So pumped. Yeah, I'm fired up, dude.
All right, what game are you looking forward to this weekend, Corey?
I'm getting up and watching TCU in North Carolina. You just mentioned a while ago. You know?
Yeah.
I'm getting up and watching that in the morning because sometime this past week they flew out there Monday in Dublin, Ireland, and everything. And we'll see who's. Well, you know, TCU. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Hold on.
Yeah, I hear that, Corey. Are you getting pulled over?
No, not me. It's an ambulance coming by.
Ambulance coming by. Hey, are you driving right now, Corey?
No, I'm at work.
All right, good. All right.
I got North Carolina. You know, last year TCU beat last year.
TCU beat up on North Carolina last year. I'm sure they have a bad taste in their mouth from that. They're 9.5-point favorites in this contest Saturday morning at 11 a.m. You think Bill Belichick's got something up his sleeve, Corey?
I don't know. We'll see and everything. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. But, you know, they've got a good coach. He was head coach for SMU at one time. And everything at one time, and everything. They've got a good group and everything. Some of these guys, they're from our backyard. I lived in Texas for 40 years, and I watched him play it against TCU from SMU, and it is good. They got talent some of the schools out there in Texas want to come play for him because he went to the national championship and lost against Michigan.
You've got Sonny Dykes at the helm for TCU. And it's he led them his first year there, right? They went to the national championship game. It was kind of a crazy whirlwind, great start. He's 36-17 overall as the TCU head coach. He's bounced around a lot. He was at SMU prior to TCU for those 4 years there. He's been at TCU since 2022. He's also spent time at California, Louisiana Tech. And then a bunch of assistant jobs prior to that. But, Sonny Dykes has done a nice job at TCU. They seem to be kind of settled into like a middle-of-the-pack Big 12 team, so he's hoping to raise that profile for this year, no doubt about it.
Which game do you think will be a good game this week in college football? Sasha?
Oh man, I'll tell you what. It's week 0, so I haven't given a lot of thought into this week's slate. If I'm being honest, you've got an American Athletic Conference matchup, or at least a Mountain West versus American matchup, Memphis and UNLV. The only ranked team in action is the USC Trojans. They're hosting San Jose State. They're 38.5-point favorites, so that one's not going to pique my interest too much. But probably the most competitive game of the slate is going to be NC State versus Virginia in Charlottesville, Virginia.
NC State. Yeah, that's the one I like too, because it's coming. NC State and Virginia has been the ACC first game in the ACC and being a conference game, everything. It's going to be run for your money. Is it that in Virginia, Sasha?
It's in Charlottesville,
Game?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is tough to play them at home, too. It is tough in the fast. But this next time.
Yeah, what
next
else?
Friday,
What else you been watching, Corey?
Macklemore, watching golf. He's been doing really well here, lady.
I was thinking.
He's been doing.
I was
really
thinking of getting
good,
to that in this first segment. Actually, Ryan Gerard is currently leading the Tour Championship as we speak, with Cam Young in second place. He shot a 62 today. Victor Hovland just jumped up to 9 under as we speak as well.
Yeah.
Scotty Scheffler still right in the mix at 7 under through 17 holes today. So that's going to be an interesting thing to watch this weekend.
Yeah. Lee, the Chinese Lee. He's in first place right now in that tournament.
Yeah, he was as of yesterday.
Well.
He didn't do very well today. But, Corey, we appreciate the call as always. Thanks for getting us kicked off.
You too. Thank you.
All right, have a good one.
Bye-bye.
316-522-1410 if you want to join the conversation. That is the Maximum Outdoor Equipment Hotline. Today's show, it's probably going to have to be this segment or next segment if you want in. So let's light up those phone lines. We are also streaming live on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook. Feel free to hop onto the KGSO Facebook page or on the Twitter stream. Drop a comment. If I like it, I'll read it live on air. We can start the conversation that way. But feel free to get out and see our beautiful faces, or I guess in this case, just my beautiful face out online. So we've got a full slate of NFL preseason games. Last night, the Bills took care of the Steelers 28-27. The Browns, Dylan Gabriel had a performance with 3 touchdowns, 37-13. 49ers beat the Raiders 18-12. We saw a lot of Adrian Martinez in that contest of K-State fame. And the Rams in the Battle of L.A. beat the Chargers 20-18 to cap off a perfect 3-0 preseason. The results don't really matter. And at this point in week 3, any kind of starters or anyone that you're thinking about being an impact player for the team is probably not going to get on the field. Most teams aren't even playing any of their first 2 strings at quarterback. But I will say this, final cutdowns are on Sunday. And so you've got a lot of guys playing for roster spots, right? Playing to live out their NFL dream. And so that's where these games get exciting. If you're kind of a sicko like me and you're in the weeds of the 53-man roster, we'll look at what the Chiefs are doing tonight and some of those roster battles. here in a second. But there's a whole slate of preseason games tonight. There's a couple on Saturday. The Lions and the Colts play on Saturday. The Bears and the Titans play on Saturday. Everyone else, besides the ones I mentioned from last night's slate and from those Saturday games, everybody else plays tonight. So it's a Friday night full of NFL football, if that floats your boat. 316-522-1410 if you want to weigh in on the conversation. I'm going to take this conversation. We're going to get to these Big 12 previews a little bit later on in the show, but I'm going to take this conversation to the Kansas City Chiefs. We like to start it local, and I've got an article pulled up here from A to Z Sports, and they did a nice job of predicting the 53-man roster for the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'm going to kind of go through that, give you guys some ideas what that's going to look like, and see where I disagree and agree with A to Z Sports. We'll start off with kind of the obvious stuff. You've got your long snapper, your punter, and your kicker are locked in. So that takes up 3 of the 53. That gives you 50 spots left to fill out an offense and a defense. It can be 26 and 24, 25 and 25, just depending on how that plays out. But the kicker will be Butker. The punter will be Matt Araiza. The long snapper will be James Winchester. No battles there, no drama there. But we'll start at the top with the QBs. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is going to make this football team. So you've got Mahomes off the top, QB1, should be starting week 1, although I don't think we've gotten official confirmation of that. And then the backup likely will be Justin Fields, although there has been some push as of late to get Garrett Nussmeier into the QB2 role. I don't think he's quite ready for that yet, but the anticipation is, at least from a lot of people in Kansas City, that they'll keep 3 quarterbacks on the roster this year with Mahomes' health concerns and the fact that they want to hold on to Garrett Nussmeier. I think that makes sense. That leaves Chris Olodikin to be cut. Keep in mind as we go through these positions and talk about potential cuts, these guys could be re-signed to the practice squad. However, they have to clear waivers, not get picked up by another team, and then the Chiefs would have the opportunity to re-sign them to the practice squad. The practice squad does have some ability to elevate on game day, but for the most part, the game day roster comes from the guys who make the 53. So that's the quarterbacks. If they keep 3, that takes 1 spot away from somewhere else on the roster, but it looks like it could be Mahomes, Fields, and Garrett Nussmeier. In the running back room, this is a little interesting, right? We know the 4 guys that are likely to make the team. The only question is, do they cut it down to 3? So the likely cuts on Sunday are Jaden Ott and E.J. Smith. But the likely 4 running backs are Kenneth Walker, Amari DiMercado, Emmett Johnson, and Brashard Smith. And this is interesting, different skill sets with each guy. The question will be, if you keep 4 running backs, that probably limits you to 6 receivers, which means Nico Remigio might not make the cut, so you'd need Brashard Smith to kind of be your primary return man at that point, and that's the question. Will the return man come from this running backs room or the wide receivers room? And where does that all line up? But Kenneth Walker is the number 1 running back in this running back room, but there's still quite a battle going on behind him for number 2, and we'll see if some of these guys get some action tonight. I imagine they will. DiMercado, Johnson, and Brashard Smith battling to see who's going to be that number 2 running back and who's going to get maybe some of the pass-catching, third down work. So there's 2 different questions here you're looking at when you're thinking about the running backs for the Kansas City Chiefs. You have one, who's going to get some carries on a week-to-week basis when Kenneth Walker is in there. So Kenneth Walker's your main back. He gets 15 or 20 carries. Who gets another 5 on top of that? Who gets a couple catches on top of that? And that's one answer. And then you have the answer of, if Kenneth Walker misses a game, who's the lead back out of this group? And I don't necessarily think the answer to those 2 questions has to be the same person. It could be that DiMercado is your change of pace back, is your number 2 back that gets some action, but Emmett Johnson is the guy who goes in and becomes the lead back if Walker misses a game. It could be the other way around on that, or Brashard Smith could be your change of pace, and Emmett Johnson's the lead back, kind of the backup if something happens to Kenneth Walker. So that's going to be an interesting thing to follow as the season progresses. But the A to Z Sports has all 4 of those guys making the team. I tend to agree. I don't think they want to risk losing any of those 4 guys through waivers and before the practice squad. So that'll be the 4 running backs. At tight end, they have a kind of an interesting take here on A to Z Sports. They've got it as Travis Kelce, Noah Gray, Jake Burningstool, and Trey Watson. And then trading Jared Wiley, trying to get a trade in place for Jared Wiley this weekend. So that's something to watch out for if they have a surplus there at tight end. Potentially getting an extra player there. They're projecting a cut of Mason Pline and IR for John Michael Gillenborg. So this one's interesting. I think there's a good chance that you only get 3 tight ends. We know Travis Kelce and Noah Gray are going to make the team. The question is who's the 3rd guy or the 4th if they keep him. It comes down to Burningstool, Watson, and Wiley there at the tight end spot. But this list projects 4 running backs and 4 tight ends, which leaves you with 6 wide receivers. And this is already skewing it a little bit more heavily towards offense than defense. And so really 4, 4, and 6 is a big number of skill position players to keep. But the Chiefs do generally keep a few more guys on offense than they do on defense. The 6 wide receivers, according to this projection by A to Z Sports, Xavier Worthy, Tyquan Thornton, Rashee Rice, Jalen Royals, Cyrus Allen, and Andrew Armstrong. I think those top 5 are pretty locked in, right? Thornton, Worthy, Rice, Royals, Allen are going to be on this team. Then it gets to a question between Armstrong and Remigio or both. Or theoretically, you could just only keep 5 receivers if you want to keep an extra defensive player. Jeff Caldwell is going to go on the IR. He was an undrafted free agent. But the cuts, according to this projection, would be Remigio, Jimmy Holiday, Jason Brownlee, Jacob DeJesus, Omari Evans, Xavier Lloyd, and Jeff Weimer. So there's going to be massive cuts on Sunday. A lot of guys are going to not lose their NFL dream, but see it set back a little bit. Some of those guys will clear waivers, and the Chiefs will sign some to the practice squad. It has a waiver wire target to watch. Browns wide receiver Cedric Tillman, if he were to get cut, maybe the Chiefs, or actually Tillman was cut this morning by the Browns, so the Chiefs could look at bringing him in potentially. We'll see how that plays out. 316-522-1410 is the number if you want to weigh in on the conversation. Tell me who you think's going to make the Chiefs roster. I'd love to hear from you. Or a preseason game that you're excited about tonight. You can kind of lead the conversation where you will here in this segment. Offensive line, got Josh Simmons, Suamai Taia, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, and Jalen Moore. Those are the presumed 5 starters from left to right there. And I think that's kind of the way it's going to play out. I don't know if they've officially announced anything, but that's what it looks like. Provided that Trey Smith's healthy, Josh Simmons are healthy, those are your 5 starters. The backups projected to be kept here are Khalil Benson, Hunter Norzad, Joshua Eziudu, who they recently acquired in a trade, and Asa Poole, which would be a cut of Mike Caliendo, C.J. Hansen, Ethan Driscoll, Pete Naira, Josh Thompson, Kellen Deesh, and Chu Godric. So they're looking to kind of keep their depth in place at tackle, I think, because there's worries about Josh Simmons. There's worries about the right tackle spot. So 3 out of those 4 backups are capable of playing tackle and could play tackle if needed. Some of them can play guard as well. So 9 offensive line is the projection here for the Chiefs' final roster when it gets cut down on Sunday. That is, if you're keeping track at home, on the offensive side, a total of 26 players out of the 50, because remember, 53-man roster, 3 specialists, which leaves 24 on the defensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, we'll start with the big uglies going up against those offensive linemen. The edge projections are George Karlaftis, FAU, Felix Anudike Uzama, who has had a nice preseason and listen, he's a former first-round pick. They'd love to get something out of him. Ashton Gelati, R. Mason Thomas, this year's number 40 overall pick out of the second round, and Emmanuel Agba, who they traded for this offseason early in training camp. Then at defensive tackle, you've got Chris Jones, Kairis Tonga, Peter Woods, and Marcus Harris. No real surprises there. The reserve pup list would be Omar Norman Lott, not ready to start the season, so he's a guy who will eventually be on this roster by all accounts. And then according to this projection from A to Z Sports, you would have on IR Ethan Downs and cut Amari McNeil, Cole Brever, Duron Payne, VJ Anthony, Ethan Herkett, Tyreek Smith, and Niles King. Waiver wire to target, maybe Bills DN Mike Dana, who's a former Chief and could potentially rejoin the team. Then at linebacker, you've got Nick Bolton and Drew Tranquil, obvious. Cooper McDonald, Jeff Bossa, and then on IR, Jack Cochran. This projection is suggesting to cut Cam Jones, Cam Arnold, Wesley Basanth, and Cole Christensen, and sign Bobby Okereke, who's currently a free agent. So we'll see if that plays out. He's had over 130 tackles a couple of years for the New York Giants, and is a possibility to sign into a linebacker spot. I don't know how seriously the Chiefs are considering that. And then defensive backs, cornerbacks, Mansour Delane, Noel Williams, L'Jarius Sneed, Melvin Smith Jr., Jaden Kennedy, and then safety Alohi Gilman, Shamari Connor, Jaden Hicks, Chris Rowland Wallace, Xavier Nwankpa. And this is a projection from A to Z Sports of the Chiefs' 53-man roster come Sunday when cutdowns happen. It's showing a potential trading of Christian Fulton and Cater Kohu. So we'll see if that happens. That's not necessarily like a guarantee. And then cutting Kevin Knowles, Kyer Ingram, Zelmer Vetter, Diarco Perkins McAllister, Tanner McAllister, and Deshaun Singleton. So that is your 53-man roster for the Kansas City Chiefs, or a potential look at the 53-man roster for the Kansas City Chiefs coming up this year. I'm excited for the season to get started. I cannot wait. It is the last week of the preseason. It is preseason week 3, and we're itching for football. September 9th cannot get here fast enough. It's August 28th right now. We've at least got some college games to tide us over this weekend. But we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, 316-522-1410 is the number. That is the Maximum Outdoor Equipment hotline. We're going to take a look at Cincinnati and Colorado on the other side. We'll start with Cincinnati. We can push Colorado to later in the show if needed, but we're going to continue with our Big 12 previews, getting you ready for college football this weekend. You're listening to Wichita Sports Station, 1410 AM, 93.9 FM, KGSO. Stay with us.
Call the Press Box now on the Maximum Outdoor Equipment phone lines at 522-1410.
The Press Box on KGSO.
40 to the 30. The Burners are on.
High school football season is here, and it's time for you to pick up a copy of the High School Football Guide from the Mid-America Sports Network. Keep track of your favorite teams as they fight their way to the state championships. Find a copy of your High School Football Guide.
In Wichita, all branches of Legacy Bank, Buckley Roofing, James Meats, Auburn Spirits, Stanley Steamer, P&B Crop Insurance, and Renewal by Anderson.
When a person calls 988, they're connected to a crisis counselor.
Crisis is completely self-defined. If you're wondering if you should call, you should probably call.
A caller can expect to talk about coping skills, talk about resources, and ways to move forward beyond the call.
They can call us, they can chat, they can text, and when they come out on the other side, they're feeling better.
Call or text 988 or chat 988lifeline.org.
Sponsored by Headquarters Kansas and aired in cooperation with this station.
Back to school starts now.
Get long-lasting battery life on the Dell XPS laptop powered by Series 3 Intel Core so you can work from anywhere. Now starting at $699 with exclusive student pricing starting at $599. Complete your setup with savings on select monitors and must-have electronics and accessories. Limited time deals and free shipping on PCs and more await you at Dell.com/deals. That's Dell.com/deals.
Wichita Clear Bra, your quality auto spa.
Window tinting, ceramic coating, paint protection film, vinyl wraps, full wraps, clear, stealth, and color. WichitaClearBra.com.
Wichita Clear Bra, your quality auto spa.
Every school pickup line has a main character. Most days, it's the kids. But once a year, a parent pulls up in a brand new Kia Telluride. And suddenly, all eyes are on Mom.
Is that the new one? I heard it comes in a hybrid now. I heard it has heated seats in all 3 rows.
And for a moment, the kids aren't the only ones in the spotlight. This August, let that parent be you. Because Mom deserves to shine too. Or if it's your student's turn to get behind the wheel, find great starter cars like the K4 sedan and K4 hatchback. Plus, you can get 0% financing on brand new Sportage and Sorrento models. And every new Kia is backed by our unbeatable 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty. Whichever model you choose, we have big savings on great vehicles for that main character energy. Only at Midwest Kia.
We want to see ya in a Midwest Kia.
With approved credit, see dealer for details. Warranties a limited powertrain warranty.
Wichita's sports leader, KGSO, is brought to you by Devon James. Devon James Injury Lawyers. Call 888-8888.
That's 888-8888.
This is Wichita's sports station, KGSO.
Welcome back into the press box on Wichita Sports Station, 1410 AM, 93.9 FM, KGSO. Studios brought to you by Renewal by Anderson, Superior Products, Exceptional Service. Excited to have you with us. Give us a call, 316-522-1410. That is the Maximum Outdoor Equipment Hotline. We're gonna dive in here in this segment and continue our Big 12 previews. We've been doing them at about 5 o'clock every day, but we got a guest coming on at 5 today, and we've got a guest next segment as well. So I'm going to dive in to the Cincinnati Bearcats. We'll get to Colorado later in the show as well. The Bearcats had an interesting 2025 season. We'll go over some 2025 results, look ahead to 2026, and then and talk about their roster and their recruits as well. They lost week 1 to Nebraska 20-17, but then they went on a 7-game win streak to move to 7-1 before eventually losing their last 4 games at Utah, against Arizona, home against BYU, and at TCU to finish 7-5, become bowl eligible, and then eventually lose to Navy in the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. It's Brendan Sorsby was cooking early, right? Obviously, the Nebraska game notwithstanding, it didn't go as planned. The offense wasn't really there, but they beat Kansas 37-34. They beat Iowa State 38-30. They put 49 on Oklahoma State, won that game 49-17. Put 41 on Baylor's. They had a 70-0 game against Northwestern State. So Cincinnati was looking like a team to be reckoned with Brendan Sorsby. We all know the tale of Brendan Sorsby of this offseason with Texas Tech, but it didn't come to fruition the way they had hoped down the stretch with a bad loss at Utah and then those other 3 games I mentioned. And so I think for Cincinnati, you obviously turn over the page to a new quarterback this year. If you look at their recruiting page, they were number 61 in the composite rankings, which combine transfer rankings and new freshman rankings in terms of the recruiting list. So not a ton of extra talent coming in, but in their starting offense, they only have 3 transfers listed as probable starters on their depth chart on offense, and then on defense, they have 5 transfers listed as probable starters. So kind of middle of the pack in terms of continuity, I would say, in college football, the way things go today. But they've definitely got some gold on their page. It won't be as gold as the other team, and gold is the color of transfers on this depth chart I look at. It won't be as gold as the Colorado Buffaloes will be when we talk about them a little bit later on. But they've got Isaiah Johnson back at receiver. They've got J.C. French IV coming in to play quarterback for them. French is in his first year at Cincinnati. He's from Roswell, Georgia. He's previously been at Georgia Southern and Memphis. In 2025, he threw for nearly 3,000 yards, completed 63.8% of his passes, had 20 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, and a 139.9 rating. So not bad stuff there from J.C. French IV. He's going to look to lead the Cincinnati Bearcats this year. As far as the 2026 season goes on the schedule, they'll open things up with an ACC opponent, Boston College, Western Carolina after that, and then Miami of Ohio. So that's the 3 non-conference games. The ACC opponent, that could be a little bit of a tougher game than some of these non-conference games tend to be. Cincinnati is a 77% chance to win according to the ESPN matchup predictor. So they've got 3 winnable games in the non-conference with Western Carolina and then a MAC school of Miami of Ohio. And then first conference game, they'll be hosting Kansas State. So we'll be diving into that one pretty aggressively before their September 26th contest. They'll be hosting Kansas State. Then they've got at Arizona. We talked about them earlier in the week. They could be a team on the rise. At West Virginia. And then they've got a really tough stretch. They're going to be home to Texas Tech, home to Utah, and at Houston. Those are 3 ranked teams right in a row, right in the middle of the schedule. So we'll see how they come through that. Then they follow that up with a road game at Iowa State, home against Colorado, and then they finish the season with another ranked opponent at BYU. So those last 6 games, it gets pretty tough for Cincinnati in a hurry on that one. If you look at kind of the projections of Cincinnati from last year. First of all, their retention rank in the conference is 50th in college football. They had a 57% retention rate, 57% on offense, 56% on defense. They have 67 returning starts. And then if you go down the list a little bit to the projections, they're projected kind of middle of the pack in the Big 12, about 9th or 10th on the overall list. Average conference win-loss, according to these projections, would be 3.5, so a little bit lower on that. 0.1% chance to win 11 games, but a 60.2% chance to win 6 games. So according to the advanced metrics, they are trending towards being bowl eligible this year. They're 50th in SP Plus in college football. SP Plus is a forward-looking metric in college football. So think KenPom for football, right? It's an ESPN metric that they put on that ranks college football teams looking forward, and they're looking to build on a decent year last year where they went 7-6, better than the year before. It's Scott Satterfield's 4th year. He's 15-22 overall. He's looking to continue to progress in this program as things move on. They have a 3 returning offensive linemen, so one of the more proven offensive lines in the conference with Joe Cotton, Evan Tengesdal, and Teron Tayo. And they were all at least 3rd team Big 12 at some point in their career. So Cincinnati should compete favorably up front in this season. And then when it comes to J.C. French the fourth, French has almost 6,000 career yards, so a lot of experience. And he was competing early in the offseason with Liam O'Brien, but he has won that job. They have running back Zylan Perry from Louisiana and Cade Wolford from Kent State, and they'll bring in a couple of receivers in the transfer portal as well. As I look at this, I would project Cincinnati to outperform the 3.5 conference wins projection. I'd give them 4 or more, right? I'm not saying way outperform it, but I think they can do decent. I think they'll win all 3 of their non-conference games as well. So that puts you at 7 or 8 wins and makes you bowl eligible. I like Cincinnati's chances this season. Give us a call, 316-522-1410. That is the Maximum Outdoor Equipment Hotline. We're doing Big 12 previews here. And we're going to get to Colorado later in the show, but I don't want to shortchange them and just give them a couple of minutes at the end of this segment. So I'm going to stick on Cincinnati here. We've got Tim Grubbs coming up next from the Voice of the Wind Surge to talk a little bit of baseball. So as the show progresses, we'll get into that. And Felix Johnson at the top of the second hour in the 5 o'clock segment. As far as Cincinnati goes, I think the tough part about last year is right, I don't care who you play. If you start 7-1, you feel like you got a pretty good squad. And then to kind of fall apart down the stretch, you're not carrying a lot of momentum into this season, right? 5 straight losses to end the year. And it's going to be incumbent on Cincinnati to get off to another hot start to kind of get that taste out of their mouth. But then how can they sustain it? That's going to be the question mark for Cincinnati this year, because based on the schedule, there is a chance they get off to another hot start. They've got the 3 non-con games to start. They'll be favored in all 3. The Kansas State game, they're at home, right? I don't know if they'll be favored, but it'll be close. It'll be a small spread. And then at Arizona and at West Virginia, at Arizona is not going to be that easy, but that's when they really, after the 3 non-conference games, the Big 12 schedule doesn't do them any favors. They really play all of the top teams in the Big 12 and a lot of them on the road. So I think they have to make hay early while they can in those non-conference games and get those 3 wins to start things off. The Boston College game, you're looking at a Boston College team to start things off on September 5th that didn't have a great year last year. They only won 2 games. They beat Fordham and they beat Syracuse at the end of the year. They lost 10 straight in the middle of that. So even though it's an ACC opponent, unless Boston College has a lot of improvement over last year, that's a winnable game for the Cincinnati Bearcats. We're going to take another quick break. On the other side, we've got Tim Grubbs from the Wichita Wind Surge, followed by Felix Johnson in hour number 2, Jacob Zimmerman in the second segment of hour number 2, and we'll continue with our Big 12 previews. We got to get to Colorado at some point in the show today. Stay tuned for that. The Dion World is coming at you. You're listening to Wichita Sports Station, 1410 AM, 93.9 FM, KGSO. Stay with us.
This segment of the Press Box is brought to you by Wichita Clear Bra, the ultimate car care and protection. Online at wichitaclearbra.com.
The Press Box on KGSO.
40 to the 30. The Burgers are on.
High school football season is here. And it's time for you to pick up a copy of the High School Football Guide from the Mid-America Sports Network. Keep track of your favorite teams as they fight their way to the state championships. Find a copy of your high school football guide.
The Garden Plain State Bank, Yoder Meats, Hutchinson Community College, and at the KQAM, KGSO, and Hank FM studios.
This coins and bullion
Kansas's premier bullion dealer.
Do you need to get rid of some jewelry? Don't waste any time and stop by Phil's Coins and Bullion today. Phil's Coins will give you top dollar for any of your unwanted jewelry. Whether it's gold or silver, get the most out of the unwanted jewelry in your drawer and do it with Phil's Coins and Bullion, 9344 West Central Avenue.
Phil's Coins and Bullion. Phil'sCoins.com.
Nobody wins Friday night alone. It takes a team. Every player, every position, working together toward one goal. Renewal by Andersen believes in that same teamwork. Our design team, our craftsmen, and our installers, all working together to get your windows and doors right. Because a great result isn't one person's job, it's a whole team's. Renewal by Andersen, proud supporter of Wichita area Friday Night Lights, where teamwork wins.
Shortness of breath, patient's confused, temp 102.
He just had an infection. What's going on?
He's becoming septic.
Antibiotics started. Bed ready, let's move him.
Infections can lead to a deadly chain reaction in your body called sepsis. Very quickly, sepsis can cause tissue damage, organ failure, and even death. If you know the risks, can spot the symptoms, and act fast, then you can get ahead of sepsis. Learn more at cdc.gov/sepsis.
11-year-old Hazel lives in a place that's rich in many things, but not money. Her job is to play, grow, and learn. But for kids like her in the world's poorest places, poverty gets in the way. Child Fund works in 24 countries to make sure children like Hazel grow up healthy, educated, self-sufficient, and safe. Why? Because Child Fund knows the promise inside every child is greater than the poverty around them. Learn more at childfund.org.
Sweetie, want some fruit?
You have to use the right tool for the job. A power drill is the wrong tool to slice fruit. Just like an antibiotic is the wrong tool to treat viruses, including colds and flu. Antibiotics are only needed for certain bacterial infections. When they aren't needed, antibiotics won't help you, and the side effects could still hurt you. Ask your healthcare professional when an antibiotic is the right tool and when it's not. Visit cdc.gov/antibiotic-use.
My teenage son only has one brain, and it'll keep developing through his mid-20s. But if he uses e-cigarettes, the nicotine in them can impact attention, learning, and memory, and can prime the brain for addiction. So I've talked to him about staying away from e-cigarettes, because my son only has one brain.
Learn more at cdc.gov/e-cigarettes today. A message from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and this station.
Remember, today you listen to The Game Plan on Wichita's sports station, KGSO.
Welcome back into the press box on Wichita Sports Station, 1410 AM, 93.9 FM, KGSO. Excited to have you with us as always. And we'll go now to our first guest of the show, the voice of the wind surge, Tim Grubbs, on the Maximum Outdoor Equipment Hotline. Tim, how are we feeling today?
Oh, I'm doing great. How are things back there?
It's good, man. We're flying through a Friday. We're excited to be taking people home today and getting them ready for any baseball news that you have for us. What's been going on with the wind surge?
Well, it's been a good stretch. I mean, we have the second best record in the month of August, which is nice. It's probably a little bit too late than never, because Springfield has the best record in the month of August, and we're chasing them. And it doesn't look like we'll catch up because we're running out of time. Got 3 more games at home this weekend, tonight, tomorrow night, Sunday afternoon, and then we head down to Tulsa for a quick 6-game road trip, and then we're back home for the final week in which we'll wrap up the baseball season. It's crazy to be sitting here saying that we only have 9 more home games left, and we wrap up the season on September 13th. But, it's football season, time to turn the calendar. to that, but we still can have a little bit more fun. And it's great to see this team playing well and, kind of give us a good feeling about next year. Not that I really believe that if you finish well this season, that momentum will carry over, but the reality of it is a lot of these guys that are on the club that have joined us in the last few weeks from Single A will most likely be with us, when we're talking again, in March and we're previewing the 2027 baseball season.
Yeah, absolutely. Exciting stuff. So 9 home games left, as you mentioned. What's going on out at the ballpark this weekend that people should get out there and check out?
Yeah, tonight's going to be – there's a lot. Tonight's one of those layered nights where there's a whole lot going on. It's, Red Friday. Obviously we're promoting people to wear red, to support, of course, the Chiefs as they get ready for their final preseason tune-up. It's also Pop Star night, so we're going to be playing a lot of, Taylor Swift, Sabrina Carpenter, and a lot of that sort of stuff. And we have some promotions that kind of correspond with pop music here tonight. So that'll be fun. It adds another layer to it. And then, of course, fireworks as well. Tomorrow night, for all the golfers out there and people that love Adam Sandler, et cetera, Happy Gilmore star Shooter McGavin will be at the ballpark, for a meet and greet. And we'll have a lot of golf-related promotions tomorrow as well. And then we wrap it up on Sunday. And then, and then we're on the road for a week. And then 2 weeks from now, we've got 3 straight drone shows at the ballpark. Thursday, September 10th, Friday, September 11th. The 9/11 drone show will be very patriotic as, and a little bit of a remembrance of 9/11. Crazy to believe that, 25 years ago. And then we'll have Harry Potter night on September 12th with the biggest of the 3 drone shows. And then we wrap up the season on the 13th. So, yeah, we got a lot lined up. So we're looking for an explosive finish to the baseball season.
Yeah, explosive and literally explosive with all the fireworks and that sort of thing. Speaking of which, you mentioned some Single A players coming up this time of year, right? And they'll probably be with the club next year. Who's a guy or two that's come up from down below, from Single A to Double A that's impressed you that you think will be fun to watch in Wichita for a little while?
Yeah, well, the one name, of course, a lot of people know because he's a former first-round pick is Merrick Houston. He was the number 1 pick a year ago in the 2025 draft out of Wake, and he's been very impressive. So I don't think he's shocking. But the name that I think has really just lit it up is a 24-year-old from California, Caden Kendall. When he added to the ball club, and you look at his numbers, and you're like, all right, cool. And he's not listed on a lot of the forecast as one of the up-and-coming prospects in Major League Baseball. And, I mean, his guy has just hit the cover off the ball, and he has been phenomenal in his time with Wichita. So I'm very impressed by him as, he had a 9-game hit streak snap last night. He's been with us for 36 games. Somehow, some way, he has reached base in 33 of the 36 games. So, he's just a guy that's getting on base, and he plays good defense, and he's doing a fantastic job.
Is it just me, or do you not ever hear about long hit streaks anymore? It seems like – I think it's just because they're not happening. But it used to be we'd every once in a while have kind of a record watch, although the 56-gamer is probably never going to be touched. But every once in a while we'd get one in the 20s or 30s, and you'd look at getting halfway there at least. Is there no hit streaks going on in Major League Baseball anymore, or am I just missing
nothing? Like no, I think you're right. I mean, Are there hit streaks? Yes. Are there hit streaks like there were yesteryear? No. There's nobody that gets. And I think, is it because they're swinging for power more? Is it because of more, selective pitching? There's more pitchers now. So obviously there's more power arms that are in the games. You're not facing that starting pitcher for the 3rd time around or even the 4th time, where a lot of those, I'm sure if we went back and looked at Joe DiMaggio's hit streak, how often did it get extended in the 8th inning or the 9th inning when he was facing the same pitcher for the 4th time? I don't know that for a fact. I'm just, I'm just assuming that's probably what happened. But yeah, no, I mean, the longest hit streaks that the Wind Surge have had this year have been, upper teens. I think we've got to 19 is the longest we've gotten. And that's just not talking about Wichita. If I go across the entire league, it is that way that nobody, has hit streaks that get into the 20s or anything. And you sit here and talk about the 20s, and you're not even halfway to 56.
No.
When you get to 20.
Barely
So,
a third.
yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right. They're just not. I mean, like Caden Kendall's 9-game hit streak is a top 10 hit streak for the Windsurers this year. But they didn't even get to double digits.
Admittedly, I do not watch as many baseball highlights of the major leaguers as I used to, and so maybe I'm just not hearing about them as much, but I used to remember just kind of every night you'd hear of somebody who was on a pretty long hit streak, and whether it got snapped or extended or that sort of thing. And maybe it's just not in the vernacular as much as it used to be, where it's not something people really talk about unless it gets really long. But I digress.
No, and I think you're right, because let's think about this for a second, about hitting just in general. Tony Gwynn was a great hitter, and he was a highly sought-after player in Major League Baseball. Luis Ariz, who has won the hitting title 3 straight years, has played for 3 different teams in that stretch, because they just don't. He played for the Twins. The Twins traded him to the Marlins, and then he got traded over to San Diego. So, I mean, obviously, back in the day, a guy that was winning hitting titles, you were holding on to those players. Those were the highly sought-after players. Where now, they would prefer to have a guy that maybe hits 50 points, 70 points less, but hits a lot more home runs. Luis Ariz doesn't hit many home runs, so obviously that he's not sought after like it used to be back in the day.
Yeah, and I see he's second in the major leagues in batting right now, leading the NL yet again, only trailing Yordan Alvarez, who impressively I has a 319 average, and that's a guy who hits for a lot of power. I'm actually surprised to see that, but only a handful of guys up over 300 this year, so the game has definitely changed in that regard. I know that you're with the Wind Surge, and it's in the Twins organization, but I know you also are just a baseball fan. It was snapped the other day, but what do you make of a team in the Royals being 24 games under 500 and then all of a sudden having a 9-game win streak? I know it's very rare, but how does something like that happen in baseball?
It's rare, but I think it's probably become more and more common. Maybe not quite 9. I think 9 is a little bit more extreme. But, I just remember, 2 years ago, the Detroit Tigers traded away its 2 best players at the deadline, and then they got red hot, and they ended up making the postseason because there was no pressure. You know what I mean? The guys just loosened up, and they played carefree ball, and you know what I mean? And I think that's probably what's happening to the Royals at this point. They traded away a couple of people. Plus they're getting healthy. You know what I mean? Getting Pasquantino back and getting a couple other guys back. And there's no pressure at this point. As much of a mess as the American League is in, could they get into the potential race? Possibly. I mean, I wouldn't rule it out. Yeah. But normally, no. And I still don't think they will, because they would just have to continue to play at such an unbelievable pace to be able to catch up. But, no, I just think it's carefree. I think everybody knows, there's a month left in the season. Let's finish strong and carry that momentum. And obviously they were playing a Detroit team that traded away, once again, 2 or 3 of its best players. They swept the Tigers in that stretch. And, so they were also beating up on some teams that also, kind of probably, one could argue the other way around, is those were also teams that should have been playing carefree because they've already kind of, called it a year. But, it's for Royals fans and for the community. I think it's fun to see, a team playing well, because I know a lot of people are fans of Bobby and the crew that's up there, and it gives you something to look forward to, when you start talking about the off season and start previewing 2027. It's
been fun watching Caglione get hot, right? That's something that you can get excited about more than just Bobby Witt Jr. But we've had kind of a joke going back and forth on the show, because I've been arguing with people on Twitter about the Royals being in a playoff race, and people have been saying that they are, and I've been arguing that they obviously aren't. And I've been joking around. They went from less than 0.1% on the odds projector to make the playoffs to exactly 0.1%. So maybe you're telling me there's a chance, right?
There's always a chance. I mean, and you still have this many games left. but can you continue to play at let's just say an 80 percentile when all year you've been playing at a 38 percentile? The odds say no, that's not going to happen.
Right, and they do have they do have a 3-game set with Cleveland this weekend, who's at the top of the current wild card picture in the AL. So maybe if they sweep this weekend, I'll start giving it some consideration. But excited to talk to Tim Grubbs here, the voice of the Wind Surge. Tim, anything else you want to let everybody else know before we get played off the air here?
No, I mean, I think just come on out and see us before it's all over. Obviously, the one thing I would like to point out, Walker Jenkins, who played for the Wind Surge last year, makes his major league debut tonight for the Twins. So it's always great to see our alum make the next step. He is Wind Surge player number 50 to make his big league debut.
Go see some future big league ball players out at the park. 9 more chances this year. Tim Grubbs, the voice of the Wind Surge. We appreciate you as always.
Thanks, Tasha. Have a good one.
All right, that does it for hour number 1. Hour number 2, straight ahead. You're listening to Wichita Sports Station, KGSO. Stay with us.
This is The Herd.
He is V8 Plus.
With Colin Cowherd.
Now, we know what Mendoza is based on his college career. So the Raiders so far are doing non-Raider things. And I've got to tell you, this Raiders organization has been closer to Cleveland than the Chiefs over the last 20 years. But I like everything they've done with Mendoza.
This is The Herd.
Weekdays at 11 a.m. right here on KGSO and on the SC Wichita app.
Every school pickup line has a main character. Most days, it's the kids. But once a year, a parent pulls up in a brand new Kia Telluride. And suddenly, all eyes are on Mom.
Is that the new one? I heard it comes in a hybrid now. I heard it has heated seats in all 3 rows.
And for a moment, the kids aren't the only ones in the spotlight. This August, let that parent be you, because Mom deserves to shine too. Or if it's your student's turn to get behind the wheel, find great starter cars like the K4 sedan and K4 hatchback. Plus, you can get 0% financing on brand new Sportage and Sorento models. And every new Kia is backed by our unbeatable 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty. Whichever model you choose, we have big savings on great vehicles for that main character energy. Only at Midwest Kia.
We want to see ya in a Midwest Kia.
With approved credit, see dealer for details. Warranties a limited powertrain warranty.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
ZipRecruiter.
Hi, I'm Diana. As a veteran, I know that for many servicemen and women, the battle doesn't always end when they come home. Because I too struggle with the invisible wounds of service. Thankfully, I found American Humane's Pups for Patriots program, which brought Sam into my life. Before being paired with Sam, I didn't get out of bed for most days. Pups for Patriots and Sam literally changed my life. Now I'm able to go to the store without having a panic attack. I'm finally able to live my life the way I want to live it. Pups for Patriots provides trained service dogs to veterans like me at no cost. If you're a veteran or know a veteran struggling with post-traumatic stress or traumatic brain injury, please go to AmericanHumane.org to learn about their Pups for Patriots service dog program. Let's give our veterans a fighting chance.
A message from American Humane.
Have you noticed bad behavior has become normalized at interscholastic athletic events? Some fans seem angry. They lack civility toward one another. Some even get aggressive and unruly. Time out! What is going on? This has to stop. Let's not forget, school sports aren't just about winning. And they're definitely not an excuse to take your frustrations out on the official or the opponent. They're about teaching lessons like perseverance, respect, and empathy, so students can learn and grow as people, not just as players. We all have a role to play in setting a good example for our students and teaching them these important values. So fans, it's time to step up your game and behave positively at Interscholastic Athletic Events in Kansas.
This message presented by the KSHSAA and the Kansas Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
This is Wichita's sports station, K230PY, 93.9 FM, 1410 AM, and 99.7 HD3, KGSO Belle Plaine, Wichita. Broadcasting live from the KGSO studios in West Wichita.
I feel more informed when I listen.
This is The Press Box on Wichita's sports station, KGSO.
The Press Box on KGSO.
Welcome back into the Press Box on Wichita Sports Station, 1410 AM, 93.9 FM, KGSO. Excited to have you with us as always. It's 1 hour till the weekend. At least in my world, you might already be on the weekend drive home, but we're excited to get you there. Without further ado, we'll go to the Maximum Outdoor Equipment Hotline, and Felix Johnson joins the show. Felix, how are we feeling on this Friday?
Oh, I'm feeling fantastic, my friend. I'm so happy to be joining you here on this Friday. It's warm outside, but I wouldn't want it any other way.
I'm excited too, Felix. So excited to have you here. Jay-Z, I don't know if you know this, he's actually up at the Chiefs preseason game, preseason week 3, and so he's going to join next segment via the phone, and we'll talk about some things. But let me start with this. Would you be caught dead at a preseason week 3 game?
Well, I was caught alive at a preseason week 1 game.
Oh, really?
So yes, I was at the Chiefs' first preseason game this year, and you want to know why? It was them. It was that game that I was at.
Why is that?
I'll answer your question with a question that initially started as a question.
Okay.
What's the Super Bowl that I've been calling for at least the last 6 years?
Oh, yeah. You thought you were watching the Super Bowl between the Chiefs and the Rams.
Hey, if it doesn't happen this year, what are we doing? I need a big comeback season from Patrick Mahomes. That feels like something I am comfortable in betting on. And then the Rams, they just got Myles Garrett after almost going to the Super Bowl this past year.
Okay, so we're talking preseason football. Let me ask you this, because like when it comes to preseason week 3, I think generally I spent the entire first segment letting people know who's going to make the Chiefs roster, basically, because nobody in the first string, at least, of the depth chart is going to see any action in preseason week 3. But a lot of these are position battles coming down to the wire. Is there any spots on the Chiefs roster that you're kind of keeping an eye on, watching out for in terms of position battles, and anxious to see who makes it there?
Well, that DB room is going to be interesting, strictly off of the veteran leadership that Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson provided. Because, I mean, that's what's really interesting about their careers. In the first 3 years, they haven't lost a playoff game. And so for whatever player was coming in, they had to deal with them. And so now they were the young dudes, and then they became the middle-aged guys, and now they're the Rams players, like we were just talking about. And so I think the most interesting part about that DB room is that who's going to fill out the rest of the depth chart, because it's not necessarily just these are our 4 guys. It's going to be who's going to be playing in the nickel, who's going to be playing all around, who's going to be replacing Trent McDuffie, who was one of the best nickel corners in all of football, who is going to be replacing Jalen Watson, who was that 4th-round gem. And the Chiefs have been really good at, over the last few years, drafting guys in the 5th, 6th, 7th, sometimes undrafted, on both sides of the football, but particularly in the DBs. And so if they find another gem like that, or even if it is Mansour Delane, who in week 2 of preseason had a few incredibly athletic plays, and the name of and he is one of those DBs. And so I think the most interesting part about the Chiefs as a team is probably what's going to be their weakness as a team, which has been the history of the roster, and I think that's how you would want to set it up. But also, who's going to fill? It's the same question that could be asked for wide receivers. Who's going to fill out the rest of the depth chart? Who's going to be that fourth and fifth guy that has around 20 receptions on the whole year, or whatever the case may be? And so I think it is going to be really interesting. It's the little guys that we're paying attention to, because I think the offensive line is mostly set. They've used their capital, and they have Chris Jones on defensive line, and Nick Bolton is one of the better linebackers in all of football. So where else can you go and trying to figure it out, scouting it and learning about your team? It's where they spent their money.
Did you see Jalen Watson and Trent McDuffie get cooked by Quentin Johnston last night? I was secretly a little happy about it. But
that is kind of nice. Like, what if the Chiefs got out of the business of those two players right before it was too late?
I saw an interesting graphic recently, basically about like the cost of Mansour Delane and Noel Williams versus Jalen Watson and Trent McDuffie and what their contracts look at. And we know it's an accountant league. I've been trying to tell you that for years, Felix. And if you saving money in one place, you're gonna get it back in another place. So I think they made some good moves in the secondary.
Yeah, it will be interesting, and like that's why I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just going to be interested to see how those moves pay out in one way or another. Who those guys are. I think Delane has a big opportunity because he was the. I always think it's interesting. If you can't have the number one overall pick in the entire draft, can you draft the first player at whatever position or like the side of the ball or whatever? And they got the first corner off the board. And that's always interesting to me. And a team of the caliber of the Chiefs, particularly at that position, and they're generally drafting at either the bottom of rounds or the entire draft as a whole. The talent that they found there, is it going to be that guy? If it's not him, who else?
Yeah, and the last corners I remember going this early off the board was when the Texans took Derek Stingley Jr. and then the Jets took I just lost his name, Sauce Gardner, obviously. Do you think Mansour Delane kind of rises to that level of talent production as two guys like that? And Sauce has kind of fallen out of favor the last couple of years, but Derek Stingley's been great in Houston. Do you think Delane can be that type of player for the Chiefs?
Well, I think it's going to be interesting, and I think particularly with Derek Stingley, he is a member of the best secondary in all of football and with the Houston Texans, and he is more of a man-to-man defender versus, I'm sure you're familiar with Sauce Gardner's strict ability to only play the left side of the football field. And so that's what's kind of interesting. I think Mansour Delane is not really going to fall into the category of, like, is this guy an elite corner in football? I think he's going to be more like that Trent McDuffie. I know it's a direct comparison, and it's the previous Chiefs' top cornerback, but at the same time, he's more of a zone player. What does that look like, him attacking the football, and does he play in the nickel? Does he just show that ability in his rookie season? Is that going to be something that Steve Spagnuolo and Andy Reid allow him to do? Is that something he's even capable of? Can he play on the outside? These are all the things that you have to figure out this offseason that they're learning in the second and third preseason games, and that's why they're interesting.
My prediction is Delane and Noel Williams just kind of go to the outside receivers. They're your two outside corners, and L'Jarius Sneed moves in and plays a lot of nickel this year. And then you can rotate it around as defenses change. But that's the way I see it playing out, is that those three guys see the lion's share of the time. Now, we're still waiting to see if L'Jarius Sneed is actually still L'Jarius Sneed. But that's my eternal optimist coming out, that he could still be a big factor on this defense this year. Do you think he can be?
I'm interested to see what he can be. I think he does provide a little bit more of that veteran leadership, and that's what I think they invited him back for. I don't think it's necessarily, if you end up on the team that you were drafted by or you originally started playing with or whatever the case may be, that generally means things haven't necessarily gone well in your career for one reason or another, or like that you're just hitting your head on some sort of ceiling, whatever that may mean. And I think that's true for L'Jarius Sneed, and that happened to be injuries, and that's unfortunate. But I do think the Chiefs aren't dumb when it comes to their defensive backfield. So what are they capable of with him in particular? Not 100% sure, if I'm being 100% honest, because I think that what makes them more interesting is that he is probably not the player that he was when he initially left the Chiefs, which, duh. But then also, here's a name that we haven't mentioned that was supposed to be the Chiefs' big signing of probably the entire offseason just a couple years ago, in Christian Fulton. And, does he have some type of capability to become a rotating player in this defense or whatever that looks like?
The projections I'm seeing in the secondary are absolutely all over the place in terms of who the outside corners will be, who the nickel will be, who the starters will be, who the backups will be. Because you do still have Christian Fulton, Jaden Kennedy, and the A to Z Sports projection that I'm showing of the roster has Fulton and Cater Kohu both getting traded in some sort of like cut day deal, and then Melvin Smith Jr. making the team at corner. So they are all over the place. Now, what I like about that, or what I see promising about that, is if everybody sees it different. I mean, that means one of two things. You don't have anybody, right, that's really good enough to be a starter, or you have a lot of guys competing and they'll push each other up. I hope it's not the former and it's the latter.
Right.
Which do you think it more is of?
I think because it is a lot of these grown men in the NFL and guys that are with the Chiefs, and it is that Steve Spagnuolo and Spags we trust, because there is that track record. There's a lot to believe in. I think there is. What makes it interesting is I don't think we're going to have the final answer by week 8 this year. I don't think we're going to have the final answer even by week 12 this year. I think we're probably going to get our final answer about this secondary divisional round of the playoffs, because that's generally been true about the Chiefs' defense as a whole. And I think that because there's the anchor of Chris Jones, Nick Bolton, and we'll see what Peter Woods is able to add in this coming season, in his rookie season as well. And there's just more continuity, more foundation built with the defensive line and linebackers. I think that we won't know the truth about the Kansas City Chiefs defense as a whole until later on anyway.
Don't peak too early, right? And Spags is good at that, peaking late in the year, especially in the playoffs.
And that's what we saw when the Chiefs first won the Super Bowl in 2019, that Tyrann Mathieu-led defense. They weren't that great until like the last 6 weeks of the entire season, including the playoffs, and they were the number one defense in football. I'm not saying it's going to get up to that level, because there's just such great defensive talent when you look around between the Broncos in the same division and Houston and all in Seattle and all the coaches that are really good. But at the same time, it is going to be interesting to see where the ceiling of this team.
We got a comment on Facebook. Devin Slane with a bunch of mind-blown emojis. Bunch of mind-blown emojis, and then he just said Felix. So we appreciate your support as always, Devin. Everybody go to Doc Green's, get you a meal. We'll stay on the defensive side and go to the big man that I know you like to talk about, because I do want to ask you a few offensive questions later on, but we'll take it in stride here. FAU's finally showing a little something this preseason. You still got George Karlaftis. We haven't heard much about him in the offseason, but that's just because he's kind of the established guy on the edge out of everyone, and then everybody else is kind of competing to be the other guy on the field. You've got R. Mason Thomas, Ashton Gelati on these edges, and obviously they went out and re-signed Agba or traded for Agba, one or the other, and so he's back there again. I think those 5 probably make the team, but who do you see kind of being the biggest factor on the other side of Karlaftis on the outside of the defensive line?
I am tremendously interested in R. Mason Thomas's ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure where it is, and I'm not sure where his floor is, but just seeing the type of player that I think he has the capability of being, and just that ilk of defensive lineman that Brent Venables breeds, it is. I'm tremendously excited to see where that type of player goes. I don't know, because you did mention a lot of names that are worthy of a lot of play time, especially early in the season, and that's why we've seen a lot of these different guys, including FAU, Ashton Gelati, and R. Mason Thomas, get a lot of opportunities. But I think even now he is one of, if not the second best of all of those guys. But if that is, even if he is the third best guy, you probably play him early in the season because you know that there's probably a higher ceiling with that type of player and seeing what he can do, because he is a phenomenal athlete, ferocious, and I think he's just a little bit rawer than some people were expecting. And I think he went into perfect hands because Joe Cullen's a really great defensive mind, obviously with a veteran coaching staff like the Chiefs, and to have a guy. And then you're also coming in with a true, legitimate defensive class of Peter Woods and Mansard Delane. And I think it's over the last couple of years we've seen like Derek Stingley and Will Anderson. Like, and I keep mentioning the Houston Texans defense, but like there's a handful of teams that have had a handful of defensive players come onto their roster at the same time. Yeah. And then the Rams, their defensive line over the last year, and now they got Myles Garrett. And so like it is going to be interesting to see what this group is able to do. If it's as early on, if it pops year two, then that's what it is. And I'm not even saying that it may pop again. Divisional round of the playoffs.
Yeah, and our mutual friend Cody Alexander from Match Quarters, he thinks the Chiefs maybe can do some of the things that they did with Leo Chenal with R. Mason Thomas, moving him around a little bit. So time will tell on that. But he's an exciting chess piece, that's for sure. Going to the inside, obviously Chris Jones is the mainstay, the stalwart. Do you see a lot of Khyiris Tonga early in the year, or how much do you think we see Chris Jones and Peter Woods on the field together?
I think that we are finally seeing the Kansas City Chiefs, at least the front office. I don't know what the coaching staff is thinking. It was a one-year deal for Tongas. And I think that it is finally an opportunity for the Chiefs to be like, all right, guys, we're bad at running the football or defending the run. And we'll talk about offense here in a second. They're not good at running the football either. But it is just kind of saying, like, we got to stop them on the goal line, or we got to stop them when it matters. We're facing teams like the Buffalo Bills, and we've been able to stop them when it matters. The Philadelphia Eagles. We're facing a lot of teams like that. And I think that it is the Chiefs kind of being like, we're done playing with the little games that we've been playing with ourselves over the last couple of years with the little 3-point wins. Even if they're going to lose, I think they're going to feel more comfortable in a position. That's why I think they're probably more like a 11 or 12 win team, not a 13, 14 win team as the season gets a little bit closer. But I think it's going to be interesting to see what this team is, and I do think you see Tongas on the field. I do also think you see a lot. I like the things that you're hearing about Peter Woods.
Yeah, and that'll be interesting because I think he kind of profiles as Chris Jones's backup, but that doesn't mean they can't rush the passer together on passing downs on a third down, and he can you can put kind of your NASCAR team on the field with a couple of D tackles that are good pass rushers, and he gives Chris Jones a spell when he needs it, which we know he will. And I think like Omar Norman Lott, when he comes back from injury, they really liked what he was doing last year before he got hurt. So if you get him in the fold and you get a couple of these edges to kind of play to their ceiling and not their floor, I actually think this Chiefs defensive line could become a real strength and a spot where you can rotate in a lot of guys and stay fresh throughout the game.
And like, wouldn't it be interesting in a year like this where there's things to figure out about with the secondary, with the type of talent the last couple, like these are year 2 and 3 type players. Doesn't this feel a lot like that Philadelphia Eagles defensive line from a couple of years ago? Not saying it's they archetype exactly the same, but it's just like a lot of dudes who can have a lot of interesting traits, and what can they do? Is this where all of them reach close to their peaks with one true star around them? And a couple of young dudes like Peter Woods and R. Mason Thomas that have a lot of potential. I think I have a lot of belief and trust and faith in this defensive line and what they're about to do, and that includes their potential.
Yeah, this is what it feels like to me is a lot like there's some differences, but this draft class needs to hit like the 2022 class did. The Chiefs were due. The Chiefs were due for a good draft class. You have to stay young. You have to, and we've mentioned 3 rookies just here on the defensive side of the ball that they're counting on to do good things. Like Mansour Delane will be the only one who starts from day one, but R. Mason Thomas and Peter Woods are going to play a lot, rotating in on the defensive line. So they need that rookie class to look good. I'll go to the running back room. Speaking of rookies, Emmett Johnson's making the push to be the number 2 behind Kenneth Walker III. You've got Walker III, DeMarcado, Johnson, and Brashard Smith. First of all, do you think all 4 make the final cut down?
Again, kind of like our conversation with Tongas, is that are the Chiefs? I think we'll know what they do by who they keep, or what they're trying to do offensively by who they keep. Even if they realize that either Emmett Johnson or DeMarcado or Brashard Smith or whomever, or even Kenneth Walker is a little bit better as a blocking back or a receiving back, because we know that the Chiefs are going to throw the football to their running backs because that's what Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes love to do. Shouts to Jared McKinnon, still mission, love you every day. But also, I think that is, if they keep all 4 as opposed to just 3, which I'm kind of leaning towards them doing, just seeing who has risen their stock in the preseason, and that includes the Cornhusker Emmett Johnson, who has gotten a lot of touches in his first NFL games, and I think that kind of, for what the preseason is worth when it comes to snaps in the actual game, it is getting your rookie back some touches and getting him in blocking patterns or whatever the case may be, trying to adjust him from whatever his college scheme looked like to what your scheme is. And so I'm interested. And then you have DeMarcado, who was productive for one of the more impressive rushing attacks in all of football last year and the last couple of years. The Arizona Cardinals, don't let the win total fool you. And then Kenneth Walker, the reigning Super Bowl MVP, need I mind you. So
yeah,
he's at least the floor raiser. And so, and then you add in Brashard Smith. What else can they add on top of that and what he was last year and the little sparks that he had? And so all 4 of them offer some different opportunities for what you can do. And if they do keep all 4, it's like, no, they're going to run the football with Kenneth Walker and Emmett Johnson, throw the football to Johnson, then DeMarcado. DeMarcado's going to get his spells, and then Brashard Smith is going to split out wide all of a sudden because Andy Reid's a crazy person.
I think the logical solution is that if you keep all 4, and I think they will, Brashard Smith becomes your main return man, and he plays special because it means you probably can't keep Nico Remigio in the receiving room.
No!
Yeah, I know.
Like
I knew
Jody
that was going to.
So of 2026.
Listen, we'll do this really quick. I was going to say something more about the running backs, but we're running out of time. So there's 5 receivers that are definitely making the team, right? Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Tyquan Thornton, and I think Jalen Rose and Cyrus Allen are locked in, right? They're both draft picks from the last 2 years. But that leaves, I think, it kind of down to Andrew Armstrong and Nico Remigio. And I don't think they can keep 7, right? If you're talking about 4 running backs, maybe 4 tight ends, there's not room for 7 wide receivers on this roster, and I think they like what they've seen from Andrew Armstrong so far.
Where's Justin Ross at?
Justin Ross is gone, man.
Doing? I think he could make the roster.
We've been talking about Justin Ross since before I knew you, Felix, which is entirely too long. I don't think he's going to make it, though.
Oh, man.
Travis Kelce, Noah.
No, I think you're right about Andrew Armstrong.
Okay, so you're okay with no Remigio? Sorry, man. Sorry, Nico. He might make it though. We'll see. Like if it's 4 running backs, 4 tight ends, I think you got to keep it to 6 receivers, and then you probably have 9 offensive linemen. Yeah. What do you think of the trade for Ezi Udu the other day to pick up some offensive line depth? What, just quick thoughts on just the offensive line overall? Are you feeling good about it?
I think this has the potential. I think we could see, if Patrick Mahomes isn't an MVP candidate, I think we could see like one of like Tony Romo's best years out of him, because he may have one of the best offensive lines in football this coming football season.
Ooh.
And I believe that with my whole heart.
I like it. We need Josh Simmons healthy. We need him to play, but
and I think that's the new Tyron Simmons. Honest to God, I do.
Tyron Smith?
Or excuse me, Tyron Smith. Yes.
Yeah, Josh Simmons. Listen, he's a game changer. If he's healthy, right, and he's playing, if he can do what he did in stretches last year for an entire season, then everything else falls into place. I'm seeing on the depth chart here that they've got Khalil Benson ahead of Jalen Moore. You don't see it playing out that way, do you? Jalen Moore will be your right tackle?
Correct.
Okay. Just making sure.
Correct.
Got to check with the O-lineman himself about the O-line stuff.
Well,
Felix,
that's the thing. You got to have your Doug Freeze and your Jalen Moore. Your Doug Freeze from that Dallas team. That right tackle is pretty good. Jalen Moore, Doug Freeze. Go look it up, kids.
Yeah, Khalil will be a good backup at guard and tackle. Khalil Benson, the undrafted free agent. Felix, we appreciate it, as always. Thanks for coming on. Tell people how they can find you on X.
At Felix R. Johnson. Go listen to the Let's Talk Ball podcast. Me and Cody Alexander get it down every Wednesday.
Go follow Felix R. Johnson. Listen to Let's Talk Ball. We'll catch up with Felix next week. Appreciate you, man. Have a good one.
Love you.
Call the Press Box now on the Maximum Outdoor Equipment phone lines at 522-1410.
The Press Box on KGSO.
This is Stu Gatz and Company live.
The audience wants this.
You're listening to Stu Gatz and Company live.
Baker Mayfield's whole thing is about having a chip on his shoulder, and he was talking to the media and he said, everybody's picking against us probably to have a losing record, so we'll see when I prove them wrong.
But who is doubting Baker Mayfield? Is he hearing voices? Does he just... No one is saying that.
Stu Gatz and Company live.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on KGSO and on the SC Wichita app.
Need life insurance but have diabetes, high blood pressure, or on anxiety meds? If you're a 50-year-old male, even porky, or with type 2 diabetes, $1 million of life insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. For affordable term life insurance, call Term Provider and speak with Big Lou at 800-444-2013, 800-444-2013, or visit biglou.com. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. 800-444-2013.
2 minutes on the clock, no timeouts. This is when a team's preparation shows. Every player knows their job and they execute it fast and they execute it right. That's how Renewal by Andersen approaches installation too. Our crews show up on time, work efficiently, and get it right the first time. Because your home doesn't need a 2-minute drill. It needs a team that's already prepared. Renewal by Andersen, proud sponsor of Wichita area Friday Night Lights. Expert installation, done right, right on schedule.
There's always something happening at Halligan's in Wichita. Enjoy happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. Plus enjoy a different food and drink special every day of the week. From Taco Tuesdays to Whiskey Wednesdays to half-price burgers every Thursday. Great food, cold drinks, live entertainment, and the neighborhood atmosphere you've been looking for. It's Halligan's in Wichita, 1106 South Seneca, and online at Halligans.com. Come hungry, leave happy.
When you look for a place to learn, train, and grow, you need something that fits your life. At Butler Community College, we want you to reach your goals in the most affordable way possible. That's why we keep our tuition rates among the lowest in the state. It's why we offer hundreds of scholarship opportunities, equaling more than $3 million annually for pursuing your passion. And it's why we provide a professional higher education at a lower price tag. Butler Community College. Fall classes start soon. Enroll now.
Wichita's sports leader, KGSO, is brought to you by Devon James. Devon James Injury Lawyers. Call 888-8888.
That's 888-8888.
Take KGSO anywhere, anytime at KGSO.com.
Doesn't matter to any of us. Don't change the subject. I'm heavy on your love. I missed that train. New York City erased.
Welcome back into the press box. Time flies when you're having fun. It's 5:30 on a Friday, taking you home, getting you ready for the weekend. We'll go now to the Maximum Outdoor Equipment Hotline and a familiar voice on the line, Jacob Zimmerman, live from Arrowhead Stadium. Jay-Z, how we feeling today?
Sasha, this is just a treat, man. Glad to be here with you on the show. You're right. I believe I'm in the southeast corner up here in the press box, getting a great view of the warm-ups right now from the Kansas City Chiefs. Of course, the Seattle Seahawks here in Kansas City today, the final preseason contest before Week 1 arrives. Dude, I'm pumped up for the experience.
All right, what are you excited to see tonight? What players are you watching, or what atmosphere are you wanting to take in? What's going on in preseason Week 3 for you, Jay-Z?
Look, I gotta think that Garrett Nussmeier is the biggest story here in a preseason contest. Like, this is a guy that we've talked about having been a former, protected first-round pick, and then he slides quite a bit in the draft, and he's right there for the taking at the end of it for Kansas City. And I think he's a piece where, maybe he doesn't see the field even in the regular season. Of course, if that's the case, Mahomes is going down. But look, I think maybe for the future, Garrett Nussmeier can turn himself into some value, and whether that's after the Mahomes era, whether you're using him as a trade piece, it only helps to have him go out there and succeed. I think he's the first piece. I think as far as maybe the battle with the tackles here, Jalen Moore and Khalil Benson, if we see either one of those two, I have my eyes on them tonight.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see, right? You still have some guys on the O-line, kind of like depth pieces are still there before final cut downs on Sunday. So we'll see what O-linemen play tonight and what that looks like. But it's still kind of a battle there. I think Josh Simmons still hasn't been practicing. Trey Smith has returned to practice a little bit, but I doubt we would see either of those two guys anyways, even if they were fully available. There's some battles at the wide receiver positions, right? We'll probably see a lot of Remigio and Andrew Armstrong tonight, kind of battling for that 6th wide receiver spot. We'll see if any of the top 5 play, like Jalen Royals or Cyrus Allen, to go with the presumed starters, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Tyquan Thornton. I don't think we'll see those 3 guys, but there's definitely some interesting things to watch for there. On the defensive side, any players you're excited to see tonight, or maybe people want to see more of?
I would say you interested me with the wide receiver discussion. Cyrus Allen's been getting a lot of buzz from the fan base. He's potentially a guy who can work himself into playing quite a few snaps this season, especially as the year progresses. Jalen Royals is still a little bit of an unknown. I mean, out of Utah State, good 3-year player there. He had 1,000-yard season, but he has not yet fully popped as far as here in the NFL on this pro level. And so I think the wide receiver discussion is probably outside of the quarterback talk there with Nussmeier. I think wide receiver is what I'm looking forward to. Defense-wise, I think it's the young guns. I think it's Peter Woods. I think it's R. Mason Thomas out there I'm looking forward to the most. I think pass rush needs to improve for Kansas City to get back to their dynasty level.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we stand here talking, I think I found it. This is what I was looking for. Little change of gears button. I was hoping I'd find it in time. So we promised people previews of a bunch of Big 12 teams. I just decided we'd do 3 today since TCU plays this weekend. I'll hit TCU next segment leading into the end of the show. So that leaves Colorado for me and you, because I did Cincinnati earlier in the show. Colorado entering or continuing on with the Deion Sanders era. Obviously, a lot of transfers as always. First of all, is this maybe the end of the line for the Deion Sanders era if they don't turn it around this year?
It feels that way, doesn't it? I mean, Deion Sanders, he came in with Shadur, he came in with Travis Hunter. They made the jump to the FBS level, Sasha, but ever since then, and kind of that 3-week hype train that Colorado football got back in 2024, it's been downhill, I believe, ever since. I think Deion, though, with stuff that's going on in his life, I mean, his son's now in the NFL. He's had the foot surgeries. I think Deion has kind of rode this wave, and it feels like it's coming to a close. Now, don't get me wrong. You don't never want to, wish retirement on somebody, but I do think This is a Colorado football team that is now back in decline. I mean, the history of their program is not bright throughout the Pac-12, and here in the Big 12, it just seems like they're behind the 8 ball. I don't know if they'll be the last place team here this year, the Big 12, but they're certainly going to be in the discussion for it.
Yeah, their old Big 12 days had some strong days, kind of back in the Eric Bieniemy days, but most of their Pac-12 life was spent towards the bottom. If we look at last season, Colorado won 3 games all season long. They started out the season with a loss to Georgia Tech. They beat Delaware 31-7, and then they started some conference games, lost to Houston, beat Wyoming, and then they only won 1 game the rest of the year after those first 4. It was a 24-17 win over Iowa State, who was actually number 2 in the country at the time. It was a home win there for Colorado, but 5 losses to end the season, no momentum carried on, no bowl game. And as I look at this year's schedule, I don't think it's going to let up a whole lot for them. They've got all of the ranked Big 12 teams except BYU on the schedule. They start out with Georgia Tech yet again, same as last year, this time on the road in Atlanta at Georgia Tech. And then they've got Weber State and at Northwestern, which Northwestern I wouldn't call a premier Big Ten school, but it's still a Big Ten game as a non-conference game, which can be a little bit tougher. What would be like a reasonable expectation for Colorado fans this year?
A reasonable expectation for Colorado fans. The record that's coming to my mind right now, honestly, is likely 3-9. I think 3-9. I think you have a ceiling of maybe 5. I don't even want to say 6 wins here is in their wheelhouse, but I do think that the schedule is a tough draw. Getting those 3 ranked opponents that you alluded to. I think that in terms of our broadcast area, that K-State game, October 31st, that's home for Colorado. That could be certainly a trap game for the Wildcats. At Baylor is going to be tough. I mean, at Georgia Tech to start the season is going to be tough. You got Weber State there in the mix for a layup, maybe Northwestern, but I think 3-9 comes to my mind.
Yeah, and that would be a disappointing finish for the Buffaloes. I'm looking at their depth chart here on a website here. It's gold. Gold is a transfer as a player. All 11 players on defense are gold. There's a lot of gold on this list. So they've got 11 defensive transfers coming in, and 3 of their 5 offensive linemen are transfers yet again. And that's been kind of the problem for Colorado, is not so much the skill positions, but can they figure out offensive line? Can they stop the run, do anything on defense? And they need to give Julian Lewis some help this year in his opportunity. He's not a transfer. He's a guy who played for them last year, but I don't know if they're going to be able to get it done up front, which has been kind of the story of the Deion Sanders era.
There's been parts of this Deion Sanders era where I felt like, hey, he's doing pretty good with these recruits. He's getting the camaraderie. The guys are willing to buy into the system. But at the same time, I almost kind of feel like Deion's pulling the crop of players where, based off of kind of the standard that's been set there, I wonder if some of those players are more chasing, the individual stardom as opposed to the team success. I mean, all 11 projected starters to be incoming transfers is absolutely absurd, even in this era of college football. And you look at the offense, 9 of the 11 second stringers there on that side of the football are incoming transfers as well. I don't know how you build a program like that. It seems like with Deion, the guys who come there, the guys who come ready to play at Colorado, I don't know what they're being told, in those conversations as it relates to playing time and NIL, but it seems like Deion's not able to, bring in some young talents, have them hang around. By the time they're a junior or senior, they're ready to start. It feels like a lot of the players who go to that program are, let me test it out for one season. If it's not going my way, I'm out.
Yeah, and if you kind of understood it, right, the first year. It's like, okay, you didn't think the talent level was up to the standard of Colorado, and so you went and tried to get the talent level there. But if it's year after year, listen, if the talent level wasn't there last year to the level whose fault was that, right? If you have to get rid of all of your talent every single year, that means you didn't recruit good enough talent the year before. Or if it's not you getting rid of them and them leaving on your own, that means nobody wants to stay in your program, right? That means they try it for a year and they realize that it's kind of chaos and they move on with themselves. But if you cannot retain anyone, that's not going to work in college football, even in 2026.
I think a comparison for me is Colorado football seems like the first AAU football team in the Big 12, if you know what I mean. It just has AAU vibes, and AAU is great, for getting a ton of reps in. But in terms of like really building into something, that's just kind of what comes to my mind.
Yeah, that's a good comparison for sure. Let's do a couple of minutes on TCU here, just to get things kicked off, and then I'll finish off TCU on the other side of the break. They opened with North Carolina again this year. Last year they opened with North Carolina, and they won 48-14, so it was a rousing start down in Chapel Hill and kind of stuck it to Belichick and the boys down there. Then they beat Abilene Christian and SMU, so a good 3-0 start. They went 8-4 and won their bowl game against USC, so 9-4, including their bowl game last year. I think that TCU's finish last year, how well they played, went a little bit under the radar. Do you agree with that?
I would say I'm relatively indifferent. I think it's tough to say with every team having quite a bit of a different strength of schedule compared to another, even in the conference, with it being so big. This conference, 16 teams, it's really tough to say. Yeah, I see your point a little bit. I think a win against Houston late in the season has certainly ages well. I do think, when you're testing yourselves out against the best of the best, BYU was pretty solid last year, 12th in the country at the time, and that loss in mid-November by 31 points. That was tough for the Horned Frogs to swallow. But kind of look at their wins. They edged out West Virginia. They edged out Baylor. They were able to win, high-scoring, medium-scoring games as well. I would say it's a TBD to me. To be determined as far as if last year was an underrated run. I know they're getting Jaden Craig as their incoming starting quarterback, so things are going to change up a little bit with him.
Yeah, and if you look at the expectations for TCU for this year, we've got this article on ESPN that we've been looking at that kind of projects everybody's conference season. It projects TCU to win 4.6 games with a 1.1% chance to win 11+, and an 85.2% chance to get bowl eligible with 6+ wins. They start off yet again with North Carolina, then they've got Grambling and Arkansas State, so should be another 3-0 start. They're about 9.5-point favorites over North Carolina, although I think that could be a better game than people maybe think. And then they've got at UCF, then they've got BYU, at Baylor, West Virginia, Kansas at home, at Arizona, K-State, home against Utah, and at Texas Tech. Those last two games are tough, but up until that point, I think they could make some hay in 2026. They're going to be kind of on even footing with a lot of those schools they're playing. So it's kind of it's like a lot of things in the Big 12, a lot of coin flip games that you see which way they go.
Even footing is the perfect way to put it. I think when I think of the Big 12, I see a lot of slightly above par, right? Slightly above average teams here. And I think, Baylor, we talked about yesterday, is one of them. Arizona, which we talked about a couple days back, I think is in that tier as well. I think K-State is probably there. That's where it feels like TCU is, sort of in that B tier, I would say, of the conference.
Yeah, and you can prove out kind of what we're saying here, because on these projections of the wins, 4.5 wins would be 500 in Big 12 play. You play 9 games, so you go a game up from that and a game down from that. So anywhere between 3.5 and 5.5 wins, you've got more than half the conference falling into that category. You've only got 3 teams below that, one being Colorado, who's only projected to win 2.9 conference games. And then you've got Utah, BYU, and Texas Tech falling above that category. But really, that middle, you could see it shooken up any which way, and nobody would be that surprised with those 10 teams and how they finish.
Well said. I think TCU is going to be one of those teams that if they get off to a hot start, especially if they're able to, be competitive or even beat BYU there to kick off October, the rest of the schedule could get interesting, but I think they're really going to separate themselves in games like Baylor, Arizona, and K-State sort of mid to late in the year.
Absolutely. That's some Big 12 previews with Jacob Zimmerman, the normal man in this chair. He's out in Kansas City at Arrowhead Stadium at the Chiefs preseason week 3. Jacob, thanks for joining the show for this segment.
Who should I go talk to in the locker room?
Creed Humphrey, if you can get him.
All right, I'll try.
All righty, that's Jay-Z. We'll see who he tracks down for interviews today. Look for that content on KGSO. We'll be right back.
This segment of the Press Box is brought to you by Wichita Clear Bra, the ultimate car care and protection. Online at wichitaclearbra.com.
The Press Box on KGSO.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Odd Couple with Rob Parker and Kelvin Washington.
I told you, Shedeur Sanders would not be the starting quarterback. If he had proven himself, shown to them that he was the future, they would have told Deshaun Watson, kick rocks, but they couldn't do it.
This is The Odd Couple with Rob Parker and Kelvin Washington.
Evenings on KGSO, and find KGSO on the SC Wichita app.
Are you in need of a new dentist? Check out 316 Dental at 13th and West Street. 316 Dental is now offering same-day services with the addition of a second dentist. That's right, same day. The hardworking team includes 4 hygienists and stays open late to fit your schedule. 316 Dental accepts most major insurance companies. Ask them about their new patient special that includes a comprehensive exam and x-rays. They also offer implants and Invisalign.
Care that soars above and beyond the 316 Dental.
Fall is rapidly approaching, and the ideal time to core aerate and seed a fescue lawn is September 1st through mid-October. Let the professionals at Meadowlark Landscape and Design give you an honest assessment of your lawn and its needs. They offer core aeration, overseeding, and dethatching services. Call them today, 316-880-0227, 316-880-0227, and get on their schedule for this fall. It's Meadowlark Landscape and Design, the trusted partner of Steckline Communications.
Celebrate Kansas, America at the Kansas State Fair, September 11th through the 20th. As our nation marks 250 years, there's no better place to honor the people, traditions, and flavors to make Kansas feel like home. From deep-fried favorites and family rides to free entertainment, blue ribbon exhibits, and nights under the stars of the grandstand, the fair brings Kansas together for 10 unforgettable days. Bring your family, call your friends, and start planning today at kansasstatefair.gov.
Back to school starts now. Get long-lasting battery life on the Dell XPS laptop powered by Series 3 Intel Core so you can work from anywhere. Now starting at $699 with exclusive student pricing starting at $599. Complete your setup with savings on select monitors and must-have electronics and accessories. Limited time deals and free shipping on PCs and more await you at Dell.com/deals. That's Dell.com/deals.
Beating the competition every step of the way. This is Wichita's sports station, KGSO.
When you think this show is terrible, something wonderful happens.
What?
It ends.
Something wonderful happens. It ends. It's Friday. We're taking you home. 316-522-1410. I'm giving the number because I have very rudely had these phone lines clogged up for the last 3 segments. We've had a bunch of guests. We had Tim Grubbs. We had Felix Johnson. We had Jacob Zimmerman, who's not really a guest. He's a major part of the show every single day, but he's out in Kansas City at Arrowhead Stadium getting ready for the Chiefs preseason game. So you have not had the opportunity to call the show and talk to me. So I'd love to get one right here on the phone lines, 316-522-1410. That is the Maximum Outdoor Equipment hotline. While we're waiting on that, let me tell you this.
Taco Tico, it's all about the taste.
Taco Tico is all about the taste. 13th and Tyler, 35th and Rock, Arc City, Newton, El Derby, Augusta. Order online at tacotico.us. Right now, you can pop in there and get yourself a bean and cheese burrito. As a matter of fact, get 2 for $3. 2 bean and cheese burritos, $3, or a third pound meat and cheese burrito for $2.79. I got to tell you, it's worth it. It's always fun. Let me tell you this again.
Taco Tico, it's all about the taste.
Taco Tico is all about the taste. It's Friday. Who's excited for the weekend? We're getting you home on the press box. We've been previewing. We previewed Cincinnati, Colorado, and TCU today. There are some college football games this weekend. We went really quick on TCU, but we can do more on them next week after this game against North Carolina. If you look at TCU's depth chart, they only have 3 transfers on the offense and 1 transfer on the defense in the projected starting lineup. So there's some good continuity from TCU and a team that won 9 games last year. So I think maybe people are sleeping on this TCU team a little bit. Maybe there's something there for these Horned Frogs to be a factor in the Big 12. Obviously, you have the ranked teams, the Texas Techs, the BYUs, the Utahs, the Houstons. But in that next tier, who are the teams that are going to emerge out of those 10 that are projected between 3.5 and 5.5 wins? The question is, out of those 10 teams, who can be a real factor in the Big 12 race? And I think TCU might be the answer to that question. They play this weekend, Saturday at 11 a.m. against North Carolina. You've also got a game at 2 p.m. on Saturday, San Jose State and USC. At 2:30, you got an ACC clash, which is early for a conference matchup, but you've got NC State and Virginia. I'll be having an eye on that. Virginia had a really good season last year, challenged late in the season for ACC supremacy, won their bowl game 13-7, lost to Duke late in the season, ended up lost to Duke in the ACC title game and went 10-3 overall on the season, then 11-3 with their bowl game. So Virginia looking to back up a really good season with another one this year. And then other college football games this weekend: Jacksonville State, North Dakota State, Sacramento State, Eastern Michigan, Hawaii and Stanford in a West Coast affair, and New Mexico State, Florida State, Memphis, UNLV. So that's your slate this weekend in college football. Kind of a 10-game teaser, I would say, on Saturday to get you ready for the real college football season, which starts in earnest next week. Don't forget, high school football starts next week as well. We'll cover 2 games every single week. This upcoming week on Friday night, we've got Wichita Northwest at Bishop Carroll on KQAM. We've got Cheney versus Garden Plain. And I got to tell you, I pulled up my guide to find those schedules. We got the whole KQAM schedule in there and the KGSO schedule for every Friday night. If you have not gotten your high school football guide yet, they are at the sponsors. Renewal by Anderson has some. Taco Prano has some guides, to name a few. Two Brothers Barbecue, Maximum Outdoor Equipment, Doc Greens, Davis Liquor. Those are some of our City League sponsors that are sponsoring some of the City League teams. Quincy's Bar and Grill. So get out and get your high school football guide. We put a lot of work into this thing. We covered 64 teams in the Wichita area to put this thing together, and it's quite an endeavor, but it's well worth it. We've got the schedule for every single team in there. We got a couple 100-word write-up on every single team and their prospects for this season. And we cover kind of all of the leagues in the area. So high school football right around the corner. Get out there and support. As far as tonight goes, well, you're going to be kind of limited to preseason football. Commanders and Ravens already underway. Ravens are out to a 14-0 lead with 12:59 to go in the second quarter. You've got the Chiefs and the Seahawks at 7 p.m. on the Unlimited. Chiefs are 1.5-point favorites if you're a sicko. If you're sick enough in the head to be betting on preseason games. Bengals Eagles could be interesting. It's all going to be a lot of second and third stringers in these games. Vikings Broncos play at 8 p.m. on NFL Network. That'll be interesting. But it all gets us ready for Sunday, which is cut down day in the NFL. These rosters, they used to do like first cuts, second cuts, third cuts. They realized they needed the bodies for this third preseason game. So it goes from 90 to 53 in one day. 90 to 53, a bunch of guys are going to go through waivers, potentially get signed on to practice squads, but it all comes to a head on Sunday in the NFL. Man, this was fun. This was a fun Friday for me, getting you guys home, getting you ready for the weekend. By next Friday, we'll be talking about a full slate of college football. We'll be out at high school games, getting you ready for those. It's all coming in full swing starting next week. Appreciate you listening as always. This has been the Press Box on Wichita Sports Station, 1410 AM, 93.9 FM, KGSO. Come back on Monday with the game plan, and we'll be right back here Monday at 4, same time, same place, with the Press Box on 1410 AM, 93.9 FM, KGSO. See you next time.
Want to hear more of KGSO? Don't forget to download our app.